Okay, good evening again, and welcome to the Environmental Impact Statement Scoping Meeting for the Lake Washington Wastewater Lakeline Management Plan. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Lindsay Burgess, and I will be your host for tonight's meeting. A few technical things to note before we start. This meeting is being recorded. All participants are automatically muted and will be muted throughout the meeting. If you would like to see English captions, you can click on the CC button and let's take a moment, locate the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. So we will use that Q&A tool to receive your official scoping comments. If you would prefer to provide scoping comments verbally, please leave a voice comment at 206-462-6355, extension 6355. If you have any clarifying questions about the EIS process, please label that question only and we will clarify. Otherwise, it will be recorded as an official scoping comment. If you would like to email a scoping comment, you can do so at lakelineeis@bellevuewa.gov by August 5th. You can also visit our online open house at engagingbellevue.com/lake-washington-line and submit your comment using the survey form by August 5th. If you have questions not related to the EIS scoping process, we will gather those questions and a project team member will respond to your question by email to the email address you used to register for this meeting. And if you would like to ask a question related to the management plan directly to the team, you can email us at lkwalakeline@bellevuewa.gov. So the purpose of this meeting is to share information about the city's Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS, scoping process for the Lake Washington Wastewater Lakeline Management Plan. We are developing this plan to proactively maintain the city's wastewater system. We will start out by meeting tonight's presenters, then we'll share background information on the management plan project. We will then move into what the SEPA and EIS process are and a brief overview of approaches for possible capital improvement projects to protect the wastewater system. During the EIS process, we will analyze these alternative approaches for the management plan. At the end of the presentation, we will hold time for you to provide your scoping comments. As I mentioned, if you have clarifying questions as we go, please submit those through the Q&A tool with the note question only. You may submit scoping comments at any point during the presentation. We want to hear what you think we should study in the EIS. Please submit your scoping comments using the Q&A tool. For questions relating to the management plan, we will follow up with you after the meeting to answer those questions. We will wrap up by discussing next steps and ways you can stay involved in the project. Our project team presenters today are Angela Chung, Senior Planner and our Project Manager with the City of Bellevue, Riley Pittman, Environmental Planning Manager with the City of Bellevue, and Laura Kemrick, Consultant Management Plan Lead with Carollo. Also joining us tonight to help answer any clarifying questions are project team members, Linda DeBolt, the Assistant Director for Engineering with the City of Bellevue, Carmen Martin, a Senior Planner with ESA, Lisa Adolfson, a Senior Project Management with ESA. And I will now hand it over to Angela for a project overview.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. Good evening, everybody. As Lindsay mentioned, my name is Angela Chung, and I'm a Bellevue utility planner, along with being the project manager for this project. So thank you for joining us today. I will be presenting a quick project overview for you. The City of Bellevue is developing the Lake Washington Wastewater Lakeline Management Plan to help ensure the reliable wastewater service to Lakeline customers and to protect the Lake Washington ecosystem for generations to come. At the same time, we're developing a programmatic environmental impact statement, also known as an EIS, and this is to study potential impacts of actions included in our management plan. So first, we'll cover a bit of background about our wastewater lakelines. Bellevue's lakeline system is an important part of the wastewater system located along the shoreline of Lake Washington. These wastewater pipes are shown on the map to the right in blue. They're either underwater or on land adjacent to the lake. These systems include approximately 14.6 miles of wastewater mains, as well as 23 pump stations. As you can see on the map, the pipelines cross through the shorelines of multiple jurisdictions, and these jurisdictions include Bellevue, Beaux-Arts Village, Hunts Point, Medina, Yarrow Point, and a small part of King County. This is an aerial sketch of what many of the lakeline systems may look like. Raw sewage is discharged from the properties near Lake Washington into their private side sewers. These private side sewers are shown as the red lines leaving the homes. These private side sewers discharge the sewage into the City of Bellevue's lakeline system, and those are shown as the purple lines. The Bellevue lakeline system then pumps the sewage into an upland city or King County system that eventually discharges into a King County sewage treatment plant. Most of these lakeline systems were constructed back in 1950s and 60s, and this was to prevent the raw sewage from the homes and the businesses from being directly discharged into Lake Washington. This infrastructure now serves more than 1,000 properties in the 6 municipalities, as shown in the previous map. Half a century later, these lakeline systems are now aging. Their locations that are in or near Lake Washington creates challenges for maintenance, repair, and replacement activities. If you'd like to learn more about the lakeline system, we'll drop a link on our Lakeline 101 presentation in the chat box. You can also find more information on the project website, and that link will be added to the chat as well in a bit. What is and why do we need a lakeline management plan? Well, the management plan we are creating will be a long-term plan that looks at how best to manage the 14.6 miles of lakeline systems for the next 20, 30 years or beyond. The plan will divide the lakeline into separate areas for analysis and planning. All areas of the lakeline system will have continued maintenance, but some areas may require repair and or replacement. In 2016, an initial condition assessment was performed on the lakelines. The photo to the right is called a coupon, and that's a sample of a piece of lakeline pipe that was taken for testing. The samples that were taken from different portions of the lakelines, and they showed varying degrees of aging. As time continues to pass, if we do not rehabilitate or replace portions of the lakeline system, they will begin to fail. Lakeline failures, they could result in service impacts, property damage to individual homes or businesses, potential sewer backups, and contamination of Lake Washington. And these would also result in emergency repairs. The management plan we are developing will help ensure proactive repair, replacement, and maintenance of these systems. The plan will help make sure we can continue to provide safe and reliable wastewater service to the community and protect public health and the delicate Lake Washington ecosystem. In addition to creating that management plan, we're also preparing a programmatic environmental impact study, and that will be in tandem with the development of our plan. Riley Pittman, the environmental planning manager, he'll talk to you a little more about this a little later today in our presentation. The best way to stay up to date on the project and give input along the way is to sign up for project emails. We'll drop a link to the email sign up in the chat. And you are also welcome to email myself or Riley Pittman with questions. Once again, thank you for joining us tonight, and I will pass this back over to Lindsay.
Thank you, Angela, for sharing background information about the lake lines and the management plan. And before our next presenter, I would like to remind you to use the Q&A tool to submit scoping questions. And if you have a clarifying question about the EIS scoping process, please label it question only. And we did have one clarifying question come in, asking if this meeting will be available for viewing later. And yes, we will get that up on the project website. Probably give us a couple days for that to get up there, but it will be made available. So I will now turn it over to Riley to talk more specifically about the EIS scoping process.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good evening. I am Riley Pittman. As mentioned, I am the Environmental Planning Manager for the City of Bellevue and am the lead on the EIS review of this plan. So as you heard, the City of Bellevue Utilities Department is proposing a management plan on the for the Lake line sewer line that is in Lake Washington. This plan is the subject of SEPA review. And so the State Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, requires agencies to consider likely environmental consequences of any project, plan, or decision that it might undertake or approve. SEPA rules provide also for the actual review process and procedures, and then one of those processes is the EIS process. City of Bellevue is the lead agency for reviewing this proposal under the EIS. So what is an environmental impact statement and why is it being prepared? An environmental impact statement, or an EIS, is a document that provides an impartial discussion of significant environmental impacts, reasonable alternatives, and any mitigation measures that would avoid or minimize potential adverse impacts. An EIS is prepared when the lead agency determines that a proposal is likely to have a significant adverse environmental impact. And what is EIS scoping? So the scoping is one of the first steps in the EIS review process. It includes public comment, and the public comment period. And as part of this, this meeting is part of the scoping period, as well as the online open house that is running with this comment period. The purpose of the scoping is to determine the range or the scope of the issues that are to be studied as part of the EIS. The issues studied in the EIS include or can result from construction or operation of a plan or a project. It could be any environmental impacts that might result from that. So the city has notified the public in the notice that was issued of the intent to prepare an EIS so that agencies, tribes, communities, organizations, or really anyone in the public has the opportunity to provide a comment on the scope of the impacts that should be analyzed as part of the EIS review. So public participation is a very critical part of the scoping period because it allows for the public to give us input on the scope of the EIS and to focus what we should be looking at in terms of what's important to the community and any relevant issues that the community finds important. And that can include probable impacts, it can include alternatives, or any other mitigation measures. And then depending on the comments received, they'll be analyzed, and if there is an impact or a mitigation measure or alternative that is raised from the public comments, those will be included as part of the review of the EIS as well. So now with that, I'll turn it back over to Laura to describe the management plan and what is being analyzed. And then following that, I'll give a little more information on the scoping process and tips for providing comments.
Thank you, Riley. I'm Laura Kemrick, and as Lindsay mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I am with Crollo Engineers, and I am the Consultant Management Plan Lead. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the alternatives that the EIS is going to be analyzing that will inform solutions in the management plan. These potential solutions could take place in the lake, onshore, or upland. It's important to note that the different areas of the system could have a combination of different selected solutions. There will not be one selected solution for the entire Lake Washington Lakeline system. Doing work on the Lakeline system presents multiple technical, environmental, social, operational, and financial challenges because of its location in and adjacent to the lake. Future solutions identified by the plan could have potential impacts on the environment, as well as property owners and the public. The EIS is going to help us to identify and mitigate the impacts. So let me describe each of these alternatives to you in more detail. The first EIS alternative is no action. This includes continuing to do maintenance, condition assessments, emergency repairs on the pipes and pump stations that make up the existing system. This is essentially continue business as usual. The next EIS alternative is what we call in-water. And the in-water alternative includes work below the ordinary high water mark of Lake Washington, which is the typical high water level of the lake. Potential solutions could include repair, replacement, and relocation of the lines and associated infrastructure within the lake area. This could be accomplished by installing a new gravity sewer main via open cut construction, as shown in this example in the graphic on your screen. It could also include other methods, such as trenchless installation or repair of existing lines through cured in place pipe, spiral round pipe, slip lining, pipe bursting, or other emerging technologies. The next EIS alternative is onshore. And the onshore alternative includes work in the area generally located between the homes and the shoreline, but above the ordinary high water mark of Lake Washington. These potential solutions could include repair, replacement, and relocations of the lines and infrastructure located within this onshore area. This could be accomplished by installing a new gravity main via open cut, as shown on the graphic on your screen. But other methods could include installation of trenchless construction or a vacuum sewer system. And the last alternative that we'd like to describe is the EIS alternative for upland solutions. An upland alternative includes work generally located upland of the homes and or in the general vicinity of the public right-of-way. Potential solutions could include relocation of the lines and associated infrastructure within the upland area. This could be accomplished by installing a new vacuum sewer or grinder pump system that discharges into an upland main, as shown in the graphic that's on your screen. Other methods could include installing a new gravity sewer line via open cut or trenchless construction, or a combination of these different methods. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Riley to talk a little bit more detail about the EIS.
Thanks, Laura. So this is a non-project EIS, which means that it's a non-project because it is not a specific plan or a project that has a permit or an outcome. It's a management plan that is looking at a series of potential future projects or actions that were intended to manage or repair the sewer line. So this EIS will provide decision makers and the public with an impartial analysis of the potential impacts from carrying out this non-project plan that is intended to manage the sewer line. So this EIS will be evaluating the plan alternatives that you just heard about or that come up during the scoping period, and is not necessarily or is not evaluating specific construction projects. Future repair, replacement, any of that work that requires permits, that'll be reviewed separately from this proposal. That'll require its own potential SEPA review and project level permitting and analysis. As far as the timeline goes, as you can see here, the management plan is anticipated to complete in early 2024. So this EIS review is happening simultaneously. And so there are periods in this timeline for public comment. As you can see, we are currently in the EIS scoping period in that ends in August of 2022. In the future, the city will issue a draft EIS anticipated for early 2023, and that will set off another round of public comment period. So scoping provides the public the opportunity to comment on the EIS, and that can include everything from alternatives to be considered, topics to be studied, elements of the environment, significant impacts, and any mitigation measures that you feel we might need to consider. So after the scoping period is completed, which will end on early August, the city will review all the comments and all the alternatives and all the work that was submitted, and will develop a draft EIS statement, or a draft environmental impact statement. And like I said, that will be issued approximately in early 2023. And at that point, there will be another comment period on that draft EIS. At this point, though, we're looking for comments to inform the scope of the review of the EIS. So comments that are, a good comment would be one that is clear, concise, and specific, that gives clear support or explanation of the comment or the issue that you are saying should be considered as part of the scope. With that, I'll turn it back over to Lindsay.
I see a lot of questions coming in. Bear with us as we are trying to filter what are things that are EIS questions and what are things that we will follow up with you all on later. Absolutely every question will be answered, whether it is here or whether it is us following up with you after the meeting. Okay, so I'll mention as we are filtering these questions to try to get answers out, a lot of the questions we're getting are about really specific lakeline areas. So for most of those, we'll be following up with you specifically with some more information about exactly the specific area that you're asking about. We did have a question about participants, and we do have the person who asked us if they're the only participant. You're not the only participant. I think we have about 10 folks on the line, trying to count between who's panelists and who's attendee. Okay, and then I think we'll have Riley jump in here. We have a question about how to see the questions.
So if I'm following this process right, right now we're collecting all the comments and questions. Those will be recorded, and so if you would like to see those can be requested as through a public records request. They'll be part of the project record and the file as we go forward. So if you want to see what anyone else is commenting on or any of the questions that are being asked, that would be the best way to do it once we have collected all of those and put them in the record.
Thanks, Riley. I'll just add a reminder as folks are maybe thinking and writing that do go ahead and use that Q&A tool if you have comments that you would like to submit for EIS scoping, in addition to any clarifying questions. Okay, I will also note that the presentation portion is got no more presentation for tonight. We will hang on to answer clarifying questions. And again, we will follow up with specific questions or things about the management plan. And so we'll stay on the line if there's additional comments, but we will have no further presentation. Okay, thank you to those who have stuck it out with us. We have come to the end of the EIS scoping meeting for the Lake Washington Wastewater Lakeline Management Plan. Thank you for your comments, clarifying questions, and time this evening. If later on you have a comment you wish to add, you can submit your comment through the online open house before August 5th. If you asked a question that was not answered during this meeting and it's about the management plan, a project team member will follow up with you via the email address you used to register for this meeting. If you have any follow-up questions about the EIS process, you can reach out to Riley. And if you have any follow-up questions about the management plan, you can reach out to Angela. Their emails are on the screen. You can also find more information and updates on our project website, bellevue.gov/lake-washington-line. Thank you for joining us and have a good rest of your evening.